Hi guys, and welcome to the Ritual Digital Studio. My name is Ellen, and we're going to be running through a 20 to 30 minute sequence here, all focused on the hips. It's really designed if you've been sitting or standing all day and your hips are quite feeling jammed up. This is going to work through the pelvis, kind of unraveling all that stagnant movement or that feeling of your hips being jammed up and flushing through the currency of the breath. We're going to use the heat of the breath to start to flush through and find the fluency of our hip joints. So come forward to your hands and your knees first. You might like to grab a block or a book, anything that you have at home that you can measure yourself into a right angle so you can notice that your wrist joints are underneath your shoulder joints. Your knee joints are underneath your hip sockets so that you're working in your joint space rather than the density of your muscles. And then pull the crown of the head slightly forward, tilt the pubic bone forward, and then just start moving through some cat-cows as you inhale round through the spine, dome through the upper back, really press to the center of the palms. And then exhale, travel the breath through, find a subtle back bend in your upper back, open up the eyes. Inhale, rounding the spine, tucking the tailbone under, find the brain in the back feet and plug down through the pinky toes of each foot, and exhale, travel through. So any abdomen issues, you're just gonna stay here with this slow breath. Option 2, you're going to start to speed it up so that it's an in and out through the nose, and you're going to just start to pump the breath here. So it's an in, out, in, out, in, out. Keep pumping the breath, moving through your shoulders and your hip sockets, feeling the fluency start to traverse through your joint space. And when it starts to get a little bit heated, know that you can count yourself 20 more breaths. So you're really starting to ignite that fire, that heat in your pelvis, and the fluency can start to travel through your knees, your hips, your shoulders, and your wrist joints. So nice. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a big inhale, round through the spine and dome the upper back. Hold the breath at the top, and then as you exhale, exhale to neutral. Then here we're just going to work with the wrist joints and the lungs for a moment before we kind of head down into the kidneys. So start just from your shoulder joint, picking up and flipping the wrists, rotating the whole arm bone in its socket, so we start to find the fluency of the frame of our lungs. And here, rather than just swiveling from your hands, really try to focus on opening up the whole arm bone, swiveling in its socket. So good. And then fingertips will end coming back towards the knees, heels of the hands are pointing forward. If this is quite intense, you can always bring the knees in closer towards the fingertips. Same movement, same breath, going to move through your cat-cows, so inhale around the spine, and then exhale, travel it through. And then when you're ready, just start to speed it up. So it's in, out, in, out, in, out. And now with the wrists flipped, we can really start to open up the collarbones out to east and west. We can plug down through the heels of our hands. And if the feet are kind of moving around the back of you, really plug them in through your pinky toes, the tops of the feet, the tops of your ankle joints, the shin bones, and the center of your kneecaps. So, so nice. Keep pumping the breath, maybe a little bit louder, a little bit quicker, so that the heat of the breath really starts to rise up now. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A big inhale and round the spine. Holding at the top. And then just exhale to neutral. And just gently unflip those wrists. Coming up onto the fingertips, thread your right knee in front of your left knee and just bring your feet out as wide as your mat. And if you don't have a mat at home, just as probably about a meter's width between the 2 feet. Look forward here with your right leg threaded in front. Just start to spin clockwise through the pelvis. And here, as you spin around, you can really focus on now swiveling your thigh bones in their hip sockets and really using your breath. You might inhale around the front, exhale around the back. So good. The fingertips allow us to really pull the collarbones out to each side, finding some height so that we can find a subtle back bend in our upper back. So good. When you're ready, bring it back into the center. Keep your feet out nice and wide, and this is where you're going to grab either a blanket, or if you've got a nice thick but flat pillow at home, you bring that behind your sitting bones. I'm just going to move forward into the center of my mat. But here, as you come back for Gomukhasana, send the sitting bones back, 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 back. And rather than sitting back on your sitting bone and your tailbone, tilt that pubic bone forward and plug down through the middle of your pelvis. Here, bring either your hands onto blocks, or if you've got at home, to books. Just a nice even height so that you can find that you can pull those collarbones out, and as soon as we open the collarbones, our lungs can start to move forward. The more intense the pose for this one is that the feet will eventually come in line with those knees. I'm actually going to move to face the front for this one. So just stay there and with your fingertips out nice and wide, just close down your eyes for a moment. Plug down through the middle of your perineum. Tilt that pubic bone flat slightly forward so that you can find your plumb line. And as you tilt the pubic bone forward, feel the subtle rise from your belly button and the subtle rise from your sternum, your breastbone, and open up the back bend in your upper back. So good. And with the eyes closed, travel your brain down into the pelvis. Just start to pull that right hip back towards 3 o'clock and that left hip forward towards 9. So if we imagine the pelvis on a clock for a moment, our pubic bone is pointing towards 12, tailbone down towards 6, right hip pulling out and back towards 3, and left hip forward and up towards 9. So good. So option 1, just grab a hold of opposite elbows here, plugging your palms into the elbows. Or option 2, you're going to wrap your right arm underneath, grabbing a hold of Gomukhasana arms and making a fist with your left hand. And so everyone here, with whatever the option, you're going to inhale, lift the elbows up, find a back bend in the upper back. Exhale, just fold the elbows down. A few more like this. Inhale, lift it up. And exhale, fold it down. 2 more here. If you've got the bind with the arms, really try to punch the wall behind you as you find that back bend. And if you're in opposite elbows, as you lift the elbows up, see if you can pull those elbows away from your hip crease. That's it. Take 1 more inhale breath. And then here, keep the elbows lifted. And then we're going to exhale, fold at your hip joints now. So traject the elbows forward, 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 to the point where you're about to round your spine, but we don't want to round the spine. We want to keep that back bend in the upper back. Inhale, unfold at the hips. Exhale, folding down at the hip joint. Inhale, lift it up and unfold. So we're just playing with that fold and unfolding at the hip crease, as if you're folding and unfolding a piece of paper, using that idea of working in our joint space. So nice. Take one more inhale, hold it at the top, and exhale, release the bind. Bring those fingertips onto those two blocks or the books or whatever you have at home. You might use anything that's the same height just to give you a little bit more buoyancy up in the upper thoracic. And just start to hinge at your hips now, folding forward. Keep looking forward here. And close down the eyes. We're going to use the imagination to open up the volume of our pelvis. So travel to the front of your left hip with your mind and draw a line to your right sitting bone. Find the front of your right hip and draw a line to your left sitting bone, and just start to pull those 4 points apart. And with every inhalation now, just send it right where X marks the spot, as if you could fill up your pelvis like a big, dense, deflated balloon. On the inhale, the hip bones and the sitting bones start to expand out to each side. And on the exhale, really deflate the breath completely. Just take 2 more rounds here. Keep maybe high on the fingertips so that you can really find that back bend in the upper back, and really try to avoid rounding your spine or losing your head off the plumb line. And so if we lose the head, we're going to lose the rest of the spine or our upper back. And then once you have it with that, plug down through your right sitting bones. Start to walk the fingertips with the blocks out towards 10 o'clock. So coming back to that metaphor or that visualization of the pelvis on a clock, our right hip is still pulling back towards 3, our left hip forward towards 9. Our torso and our arms and our vision is heading out towards 10 o'clock, and our pubic bone towards 12, our tailbone down towards 6. Option 2, you might like to come down to those elbows, plugging in your elbows into the earth, your shoulder maybe into that right knee, but keep working for the integrity of the spine. So good. When you're ready, coming back onto the fingertips, start to walk it out over towards the right, so out towards 2 o'clock. And know how intense this is, so really use the mind, travel it back into your pelvis, and come back to that metaphor of the pelvis on a clock. Reorganize, reorient yourself so that you've got yourself in the center of your circumference, the center of the moment, and the center of your joint space. Remember option 2, come down to those elbows. This time the left shoulder will plug into the left right knee. Keep working for that back bend in the upper back so the lungs can move forward. And when we fill up our lungs, our kidneys are able to flush. So good. Coming up onto the fingertips, bringing it back into the center. And one last thing here, we're going to find some arms with this pose. So if this isn't available, you can always work with coming back to those twists out to each side and just working on finding some fluency as you come around. Options here to come down to your elbows. So if we have our right elbow down, bring your left palm to the sacrum. Start to spin out towards the left. Left palm lifts all the way up and over, and plugging it in over towards the left side. Left elbow comes down, left shoulder makes contact. Use the leverage of the shoulder and the knee to spin around your plumb line. And then just finding some fluency here as you travel from each side. One step from that is that if you've got the feet out wide enough, you might start to find the bind with your hand onto the opposite foot. So same thing, left palm to the sacrum, spin out towards the left, and then find the bind as you spin around. The spin comes around your plumb line in the torso, so the hips stay where they are. They're like your foundations of your house. And now we're just starting to open up the windows of the second floor. Vision traveling with the palm. So good. And then when you're ready, bringing it back into the center, maybe grabbing those blocks, coming forward to the hands and the knees. And if an option here is to just come up onto the blocks, maybe staying here, or option 2, bringing the palms to your sacrum, pressing your pubic bone forward, find the back bend in your upper back. Try not to banana your lower back here. Option 3, grab a hold of opposite elbows and just take 3 expansive breaths here. Inhaling up the back of you all the way up to the crown of the head. Maybe taking a subtle pause and then exhale, descend the breath down the front of you. Like a big arc of circumference. Inhale up the back. And maybe open up the mouth on the exhale. One more here. Pausing right in the center of the breath, and as you exhale, pop the cork, release the palms. Whew, so good, guys. Bringing it back. I'm just going to turn back on the side here. So your right leg is still threaded in front of your left. Just kick that blanket back for a second. Look forward, press into the balls of your feet. So tuck the back toes, lift your hips up into a brief downward facing dog. And then just pick up your left leg and thread it in front of your right leg. Plug the right knee into the back of your left knee. Lower them down to the earth and just bring your fingertips, your toes out to each side. So again, coming up onto the fingertips, start to rotate and swivel around in an anti-clockwise direction now. Maybe closing down the eyes, starting to really imagine how your thigh bones are rotating in their hip sockets. And just taking in any information where you might feel a sensation or some sort of jamming sensation or something that is not feeling quite right. And noticing where it is in the body so that we can gain a little bit more insight into how our pelvis is at the moment. So good, bring it back into the middle. And then getting your blanket organized, I'm going to spin around towards the front. Our left knee is threaded in front. Have your blanket behind you so that you can really plug down through your whole pelvis. So don't just sit on the tip of the blanket, really plug down, and then tilt that pubic bone forward. So the tendency in any seated pose is that we round our lower back. Tilt the pubic bone forward and the knees should come down a little bit further. Grab a hold of your 2 blocks or your books. You might even have Tupperware containers that are the same size, but just bring them out to each side. Pull your collarbones out to east and west and just close down the eyes. Travel the brain down to your perineum, that spot between the pubic bone and the tailbone, right in the center of your pelvis. And just start to travel up through the middle of your plumb line, through the center of your torso, through the middle of your throat and the skull, all the way up to the crown of the head, and take a subtle pause. And maybe as you exhale, just travel back down that plumb line, your skull, through your throat, your torso, and your pelvis. Amazing. When you're ready, you'll take your options this time. Left arm, wrapping underneath, grabbing a hold of the left wrist, make a fist with the right hand, or, option 1 was grabbing a hold of opposite elbows. but whatever comes naturally, just flip the wrist grip so you go against your habits. You're going to inhale, lift your elbows up, open up the lungs, and that's the same if we're Garudaing the arms. Find a back bend in your upper back. Exhale, fold the elbows down. Inhale, lift it up. And exhale, just fold the elbows down. Try not to round the spine at all. We want to just open up our shoulders here. And that's the same if we're in this grip. You're inhaling, opening up and really pushing your lungs forward. One more here. Inhale, lift it up. And same again, if you're in either holding the elbows, you're just going to start to hinge at your hips, keeping the integrity of the spine, looking forward, and inhale, lift it up. And count yourself 3 here. Folding, hinging, and unfolding at your hips. And after that final one, hold the breath at the top and exhale, release the palms. Hands come onto the block, start to walk forward, but rather than kind of rounding your spine, again, we're hinging at the hips, so pubic bone, your belly button, your sternum travels forward in front of you. Close down the eyes this time. We're going to cross-reference the torso from the tip of your left shoulder. Draw a line to your right sitting bone. And from the tip of your right shoulder, draw a line to your left sitting bone. And just pull those 4 points apart. So good. Tilting that pubic bone forward, feel the belly button subtly rise forward and up in your sternum so that you keep working for that back bend. And now plug down through your left sitting bone, start to walk the hands and the torso out towards 2 o'clock. Option 1, stay here. Option 2, coming down to those elbows. But here, try not to lose that left sitting bone. Plug it back down, pull it back towards 9 o'clock. Your right hip is pulling forward towards 3. So good, bring it back up to the fingertips, start to walk it out over towards the left, out towards 10 o'clock. Same again, looking forward, option to come down to those elbows, finding the back bend in your upper back. Take 2 breaths here. Amazing, bringing it back, coming into the center. And we'll do one more here, finding those arms this time. So if it's unavailable to you, just coming back to those original, folding over to that side, folding over to the opposite side, and working just to find that little bit of fluency with the breath and with the heat to traverse through your joints. Option 2, finding the opposite palm to the sacrum, you spin out towards that, so the right palm's on the sacrum, spin out to the right, vision travels with the palm up and over to the opposite side, spinning around the plumb line and finding that bind. And just do 3 on each side, using the breath as you inhale up and around, exhaling it over. Last one here. So good. Bringing it back here, coming forward, hands and knees. And always just take a moment here if it's quite sensational down in those hip sockets. Grab those blocks, anything that you need, if you need to scaffold your way up. Otherwise, you can just press yourself up. But rather, without lifting that left knee, plug it down into the earth, press your sacrum forward so your pubic bone comes forward, and you find that back bend in the upper back. Option here, you might grab the opposite grip of your elbows, pull them away from your hips. And subtly just pull your right hip forward, left hip back. So nice, guys. Bringing it down, coming forward, and on your mat, just removing that blanket to come out of this, tucking the back toes, pressing through the balls of the foot, lifting the knees. Find your downward facing dog, but just unravel your legs. You might pedal out through the legs for a second. And then just walk your hands towards your feet towards your hands, and just start to hang over. So bring 2 fists between your feet, and then grab a hold of opposite elbows. Plug your lungs onto your thighs. Your knees eventually will come into your armpits, and just hang over so that you plug your upper body into your lower body. And just count yourself 5 breaths here. Inhaling from your heels all the way up to the sitting bones, and pause. And then as you exhale, descend the breath all the way back down to those elbows. Or a nice option is to bring your palms underneath your feet and pull the elbows out to each side. And just count 4 more breaths. Keep working to plug your lungs in so that you can really find your hip joints here, your thigh bones plugging in. Press through the balls of your feet so your sitting bones tilt up a little bit higher. You can even tilt your pubic bone forward and feel the sitting bones spread a little bit further. And take a moment to travel that breath through your joint space, your circuitry. It's like an electrical circuit, electrical wiring in your house. Take 1 more breath in, and open up the mouth. Releasing those palms, walking your feet back, downward facing dog, lowering the knees down. And well done, guys. Thank you so much.